the last couple of days, we had like a little piece, like a little separate piece of Gemara. The last thing we'll just mention a little bit about the halacha of that piece. The Gemara concluded if there's a thorn in public property, and it's a danger, that thorn is a danger for the public. We said that you could go ahead and walk less than 4 amot at a shot, right? It's called pachot midalad amot. It's called less than 4 amot at a time. As we know, the biblical prohibition of carrying on Shabbat is from a private property to a public property. That's or public to private, or in public itself, carrying 4 amot, starting in the public and ending in starting in the public. Again, we say public to private is also is a biblical prohibition. But within the public itself, if I pick up something in public property and I carry it 4 amot, 6 to 8 feet, and I stop, that's also Torah prohibition. Correct? Those are the three situations.
Right.
When we say Torah prohibition, means that it meets the criteria of a public domain, which Rashi says you have to have 600,000 people, in that area, traveling in the area, living in the area, you carrying in those, right? So whatever to make that domain a public property.
Right.
With that being said, the rabbis made a fence. What was the fence that the rabbi said? And if you want to send to the group, the fence was that you can't carry less than 4 amot in public property. The person says, Rabbi, I'm not going to carry 4 amot. I'm not going to carry 6 to 8 feet in public. I'm going to carry 2 feet and I'll stop. I'll carry 2 feet and I'll stop. Remember, when you go from private to public or public to private, it's not about distance.
Right. It's either 1 foot.
It could be 1 foot. It's just a domain. You go from one domain, like the case we had in the beginning of the Masechta, Balabayit bifnim, the guy in the house is inside, and the poor man is outside.
Right.
If the Balabayit sticks out his hand and he gives the poor man a piece of bread, he went from private and he's put it in the hand public. That's a biblical prohibition.
Right.
But in public property itself, it's walking 4 amot is the Torah prohibition. So what did the rabbi say? God bless you. The rabbi said, we have to tell you not to carry less than 4 amot in public property. Why? Because if you allow the person to carry less than 4 amot in public property, within public property itself, he might come 42a. He might come to carry 4 amot, right? If you give him a finger, he takes a what? A hand. An arm. So therefore, the rabbi said you can't carry less than 4 amot in public property. With that being said, the rabbis suspended their fence by something that's dangerous to the public, the Gemara says. At least the case the Gemara says was that if there was a thorn in public property, it's sharp, people could get hurt. So the rabbi said you could go ahead and carry less than 4 amot at a shot.
Does that mean anything that's dangerous?
I mean, okay. I mean, it would logic would say yes, because anything that's similar to a thorn. But there is discussion in the Chafetz Chaim and the Mishnah Berurah. What about if you could have removed it before Shabbat, but the people were just lazy. They were lazy and they did not move it before Shabbat. Or that's what it would sound like to me, because if you could have moved it before Shabbat, so why didn't you move it before Shabbat? Now, would we say that we'll allow you to move it on Shabbat itself?
No, I was home. I wasn't in the public property.
But right. But I'm right. But I'm saying, let's say the community or whatever, they should have removed it. They had ability to remove it, and they just didn't remove it. So that is a discussion in the Chafetz Chaim. The Mishnah Berurah says.
So if someone in front of their house, it's the public property, the guy that lives in this place, he should have removed it. That doesn't make me exempt from removing it. I'm walking down the street. I never saw it before. No problem. I can remove it, you say.
Okay, so okay, good, good. So there is a dispute. I'll just read to you. I didn't look in the sources themselves. I saw the Chafetz Chaim himself. Chafetz Chaim says you remove it, you walk, you carry it less than 4 amot at a shot until you move it to the side of the public property to a
Right.
place where people aren't walking.
Okay.
And then he
Isn't there a third place besides public property, private property?
yeah,
What
there's
was
something
the
called a Carmelit, there's a Mokum
right,
Patur,
Carmel? Yeah.
and the Mogan Avram says that's only if the thorn wasn't there before Shabbat. Because if it was there before Shabbat, he should have removed it before Shabbat.
Right. Right.
But the Eliyahu Rabbah argues. He goes, even if it was there before Shabbat, you're allowed to move it on Shabbat. So okay, we have to see more detail, but
Right.
there's a basic argument about that.
Okay. Right.
And then the
Okay.
Chafetz Chaim brings down that what about if the thorn was very large, a very large item that's dangerous, that people are really capable of just walking around. A
Right.
thorn is a small type of thing. So he says if it's something, if it's a large thorn, you can't move it because it's easy for people to be aware of it because it's very visible. And he says the Mogan Avram questions that opinion, and others, back that opinion that if so there is a discussion even about that. Something which is large, it's easy for people to be careful, but it's still something that's dangerous. Seems to be a discussion about that as well. So the other thing that the Shulchan Aruch writes that at a place where there's damage for the public, the rabbis did not make a fence. So that is the allowance. Now, when Mark spoke about a carmelit is a domain which is rabbinically forbidden to carry. For instance, let's say you have a place, let's say a Deal, New Jersey, right? Deal, New Jersey, let's say, most probably, if you do not have an Eruv there, if there's no Eruv, it would be forbidden rabbinically to carry in Deal, right? Because
Right.
let's say it doesn't meet the criteria of a public domain on a Torah level, therefore they can make an Eruv there. You can make an Eruv in a place that doesn't meet the domain on a Torah level as a public domain. But if the Eruv went down, right, so then that to carry
Rabbinic.
it would be rabbinic prohibition. So being it's a rabbinic prohibition to carry, let's say, in deal, according to now there is the Rambam, by the way, Maimonides holds deal would be most probably deal might be a biblically prohibited because if the Rambam holds that you don't need the 600,000 criteria. He holds even if it's a public place and just a few, only a few things need to be met to be a public area on a Torah level. So Maimonides is it's more strict in certain place, and therefore there might be people that you might see they don't carry in a place with an Eruv. Why aren't they carrying with the Eruv? There's an Eruv. It's not this humongous city. It's not New York. It's not Manhattan. It's not Brooklyn. But the Rambam holds a place that the public walks. It doesn't need to have 600,000 people to be a public domain. There's a few things you might need, but the world relies on the Rashi and the lenient opinion about the 600,000, and therefore that's why the world makes Erevin in all these suburbs and all these places. You know, and I presume in Teaneck and Englewood and all those towns. You know, so so he says a Carmelite, since that domain, the Shulchan Aruch says, is a domain that's rabbinically prohibited. So therefore, you could actually, and that's really based on our Gemara, because our Gemara says in a Carmelite, which is the Rabbanon, the Gemara says you could even carry and one shot more than 4 amot. You don't need to walk this on less than 4 amot, less than 4 amot. But the whole
Madison.
is rabbinic in that place.
Take it down.
Prohibition is rabbinic, so they waived it. So if they
Um,
waive it, therefore you can just
yeah.
carry more than 4
What
amot,
does that say? 725. Take
right?
it
That
down.
is the. So that is the story. Okay, so let's continue in the, by the way, there is another example. Where do we see in daily life the application of this halacha in a certain sense? And let's say if glass broke on Shabbat, right? People, a glass breaks. Now that glass that broke is mukseh, has no use. That broken piece, right? So technically, to move broken glass, which should be a problem of mukseh. But the rabbis say, of course, you got to people walk in that place. You got to get rid of that glass. So we clean up glass on Shabbat from the floor, right, Adam?
Inside
Okay.
or out.
Inside or out, right now out, right out would be it depends where you are. If you would clean, if it's you would clean it
Where
up. The
no
question
one
is
walks. If
how
it's where
much
no
could
one
you?
walks.
Question is how far do you have? Are you able to? It depends where the glass happened. If it happened in deal, so technically, even if there is no Erev, if the Erev would be down, you could carry it in deal until you get it away from the carry this, even in one shot,
Thank you.
because as long as until you get it away from where the public is, but if it happened in Manhattan, according to the people who don't carry them in hand, according to people that say in a place that's a public domain minat Torah, you would walk the glass, you could carry it less than 4 amot at a shot. It could be, yeah, that's what you'd be able to do. Couple of feet stop, couple of feet stop, couple of feet stop, until you get the glass to the place away from the public. Okay, that addresses a little bit that this subject that we were on yesterday. And now, Mark, in your honor, we're getting back to the water. We're back to the water today. Okay. The Gemara is on 42A1, right? Towards the right side of the page. Ton of a notain who, right? The Mishnah said, the Mishnah spoke about putting a lot of cold water in a pot of hot water that you took off the fire. So, meaning one explanation of the Gemara is that you're allowed to put a lot of cold water into that pot, because even though that pot has water that's boiling, but putting a lot of cold water into that pot, once it's removed from the fire, the cold water will not cook, because you're overpowering the water that's in the in the pot with a lot of the cold water. Or the other opinion of the Gemara is that you empty the contents of the pot, and the pot is empty, you can put a lot of water in at one time. It will not be heated up by the walls of the pot. Morning, Mark. So now the Gemara goes more into this subject. So we're on 42A1 on the bottom right. So the Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a brighter. Notein Adam Chamin L'toch Hatzonim. You could put hot water into cold water on Shabbat. This is going to be the opinion of Beit Shammai. Beit Shammai is saying, I have a go ahead. I have a pot. I have a pot with cold water. Let's say I want to put hot water into that pot. So the cold water, Beit Shammai says, which is on the bottom is going to be. He holds that the bottom overpowers the top. You're coming into my territory, the territory of the water, and the cold water will, obviously, if we're talking about you're putting equal amount, most probably of water, of cold water than hot water, not that you're just overpowering with hot water, a tremendous amount of overflowing hot water. So you have, let's say, a pot of cold water, and now you throw, or a container of cold water, and you throw some hot water into that, even if it's very hot water, the cold water will overpower, it won't cook the hot water. And the hot water won't cook the cold water, but okay, but it's not gonna cook it. That's what he's saying. Therefore, you're good. But Water is not easy to cook, and the water here, Beis Shammai is saying, the cold is on the bottom, and the cold that's on the bottom. If you come into my territory, the bottom he holds is gonna stay stronger than the top coming in. When you're sitting a sitting pool of water, something else comes into it. The bottom, that's what he says. Bottom remains stronger than if let's say you have 10 ounces of cold water on the bottom, 10, and you put 10 ounces of hot water. The 10 ounces of the bottom.
Less.
He says
Less effective.
it's less affected, exactly, and therefore it will retain its stance wherever it is. Whether if it's cold, it will retain its coldness, and if it's hot, it will retain its heat. So therefore, Rabbi Shammai says you can only go one way. It's only a one-way street. You put the hot into the cold, but you can't put the cold into the hot. The cold will turn hot. Right.
So he's saying like the physics are
He's talking about the physics.
Yeah.
Physics.
Is that true? Yeah. Really? You take a cube of ice and put it in the ice. Yeah, yeah. Colder than water. Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
It's surely cold. A glass of water. Yeah. A glass of water. If you have a big glass of water and your ice that floats at the top. Top cold, the bottom didn't get affected. Then you
That's
get
why-
kinetic energy.
that-
Mix it up.
That's why you pour the water into the iced.
Called-
We know we like that
it's
more. I didn't know
called-
why.
It's called kinetic.
Okay.
Kinetic.
It's energy in motion.
Right, so that because the water's moving over the ice, it gets colder.
so-
If I put the ice in the water, the bottom water is never touched, never saw the ice
So it's not about because it's top versus bottom. It's about the motion.
on ice. On
Right.
ice, yes. In water, I think if I had a bucket this big,
Look at your thing. Use your cup, Mark.
if I take this cup right now, this is not a lot of volume, but if I take this cup and I put, let's say, a teaspoon of water in it.
Yeah.
Do you think where up here is gonna be the same temperatures down here? Immediately.
No.
That's it.
That,
So the point is, that if you put cold water, that cold water is going to get cooked.
All right, that's for sure.
That's going to get cooked. But if you put hot water, if you say you have a cup of ice cold water, and you put hot water in it, see, he's saying that hot water is not going to cook the cold water.
Conversely, the cold water will cool down the hot.
Right.
It all has to do with volume. too.
Right. Obviously, if it's going to
Volume,
put
have a good volume,
right,
volume,
right, exactly,
hot, volume.
right, exactly. Right, exactly. So that is Beis Shammai. So Beis Shammai says, God bless you. So Beis Shammai says, Notein Adam Chamim l'toch hatzonei. You could put on Shabbat hot water into cold water, v'lo hatzonei l'toch hachamim, but not cold water into hot water. Divrei Beis Shammai. That's the words, God bless you, of Beis Shammai. He says you can't do it. And the way Tosfot says, he understands, even if he allows you to pour hot water from, let's say, a kettle. Let's say it's hot water from a kettle, which is clearly shown. The kettle that you had on the fire, now you pick up the kettle on Shabbat. It's a clearly shown because it's still boiling. You can actually, and you have a cup of water, nice cup of water, you can pour from the kettle a few ounces of, let's say, not too many, but similar of hot water into that cold water. And the hot water will not be cooked. Right? Beis Shammai said the hot water, sorry, but the cold water won't be cooked. Right? The cold water at the bottom the hot water won't overpower the cold.
So, but is that status ready to go?
Explain. What do you mean ready to go?
In other words, I could use that now?
You can use it. Yeah, he said you're allowed to do it. He said you're allowed to pour it.
So it's Kalisha Nida.
He says there's no right, whatever you want to call it. The cold water did not get cooked from that hot water. The hot water came from a Kli Rishon, but it doesn't have the power to cook the cold water.
Don't give you proportions or.
Meanwhile, so far they didn't say proportions. Maybe we have to see. Maybe we'll take a look at the halacha. Maybe we'll see if they discuss it.
That really.
Right. So far we're saying on the normal, not a lot. Right. Now, however, you can't place. But when it comes to if the bottom is hot, even if it's a klisheni, the bottom is a klisheni. Beis Shammai is strict, and he says even if you're a second utensil, I mean you're not the original pot that was the hot pot that was cooked on the fire, and you remove the pot, and now it's just still boiling. It's not that case. You actually poured from the tea kettle into that cup, and that cup is a kli sheni. Beis Shammai says you still can't put water into. Beis Shammai says you can't put water into the kli sheni. Cold water into that. You can't put cold water into that hot cup of water. Why? Because Beis Shammai says he holds kli sheni. He said he holds even kli. Right, right, exactly. Exactly, you're on target. But Beis Shammai holds kli sheni you won't cook. Morning, Josh. And therefore Beis Shammai, sorry, kli sheni will cook. And therefore Beis Shammai says if the bottom is hot water, you can't pour in cold. If the bottom is cold, you can even pour from the kettle into it. Einem vashel by water. Exactly. That's coming up.
It's a hard thing.
Right.
Well, except for the caveat that you said, the things that are easier.
Right. Exactly.
Water's not easy.
Water. You see how long it takes to cook water. So so we appreciate. You tell you do a good job.
I'm learning the brand and we're saying how cliche is not cooked. Right? So I said to them, but wait a minute, it could cook.
Like literally.
It really could cook. Yeah. So I take boiling water, I put it in a second cup. The water is, we looked at the temperatures. Water cooks at 212 degrees.
Okay.
Then they talked about when you put your finger in the cup, when do you recoil it?
Uh-huh.
I looked at that also. You recoil your finger, like in a hot tub, 110, no problem. 120 starts to
You're
get.
doing the experiment.
No.
No, this is not.
I checked it, I
Okay.
chat GPT and then, okay, where could you not go in the water? 140 degrees. You're not gonna be able to put your hand in the water. I'm gonna pull it out.
Okay.
Now there's 140 and 212. 212 is boiling
Okay, but 140 is the limit of when it gets
of
too hot.
unique coil.
Yeah.
So now 200. I'm gonna recoil, but it's still cooking.
Yeah.
It's just like, so we say a tea bag, easy to cook, right?
Right.
So I said, if you could cook a tea bag, I could crack an egg, drop it in 200-degree water, and I assure you that egg
Yeah.
will be a poached egg.
Mhm.
So I could cook on Shabbat.
If you're doing a cliche.
Yeah.
Right. That's what will come out.
Sheni,
What's that again?
even Sheni, according to what the halakha is,
No, yeah, but-
Sheni doesn't cook.
That we said, but klisheni doesn't cook by certain types of items. We said, remember?
I understand, no, so my starting point was, the halakha is kli sheni,
Doesn't cook.
doesn't. So, but if it's 180 degrees, I drop an egg in it.
It will cook.
Cook, I have a poached egg on Shabbat.
But the halacha just said technically doesn't cook.
Doesn't
For
cook.
The
halacha.
halacha says again, but the halacha says again.
It's just for liquid though.
But liquid, we said, right, liquid won't cook, water won't cook.
Wait, so what
Water won't.
What
about the egg
though? Right, the egg is
Of
not.
course, the egg is the holy douche.
So therefore, I want to. I told Mark. Well, the only things that we know that we know don't cook in the klisheni in the second utensil, that's what you could do. But Mark, eggs, we do not have a precedent. We don't have. Morning, Gary. Welcome back. We don't have on the books to say that now it's eggs like now. What's with a tea leaf? We say tea leaves
Cooks very easy.
cooks very easy. Therefore, you can't put a tea leaf into a cliche.
That's what they take, cup.
That's why that's why they use not, they don't just,
a cup.
the extra cup on Shabbat. They form the kettle urn into cup number one, which is the cliche. And then they from the cup number one, they put in cup number two, which is the cliche. So they say that the walls of each cup cools it down, and now you can put the tea bag in. So I said to Mark, just like a tea leaves, we're concerned that maybe it's easy to cook, and something that's easy to cook, we say cliche will cook it, and therefore you can't use a cliche for that. So therefore, the same way so Mark's case of the egg, in order for you to be able to do that egg, you would have to use a cliche.
So if I take.
Right, that's what I told you.
Right, so if I take water, it's 212 degrees, boiling water. Boiling on Shabbat.
Put it to cup number one.
Put it in cup number one, which is cliche.
And
then drop it into
cliche,
and
and
then drop a raw egg in there.
that's what it sounds like.
It's kosher to eat this egg, cooked.
It's kosher to do it.
It's kosher to do it. So
Right.
now I cooked an egg on Shabbat.
That's not, you cooked the leaves on Shabbat. What are you gonna tell
I
me about
agree.
that, Mark?
I agree.
And you're comfortable with that? The answer is that's
I do tea, but I don't think I could do it.
so don't do that. Maybe, you know what, but I'm just saying that I'm just showing you logically should be it should match.
Yeah.
It should match. It should match the tea leaves and the eggs should match. You know what I'm saying?
But that's like you said, like, it doesn't actually lower the temperature.
But the
Well,
wall,
it
the wall,
That lowers it, but
Not enough
It's not
that
gonna
you would
cook.
recoil.
Right.
Not enough that
It doesn't get.
recoil. I still would recoil even in the cliche.
Right,
The cliche.
but remember, there's another point. There's the point, Darren said, that's the point. There's another point it's a great point. There's another point that, remember, the item that you heated up with the fire, that was heated over fire,
Water.
water in a tea kettle, has different abilities of cooking than something which was not the original source of the fire. That the fire did not, meaning the cup that you pour into was not original, was a cold cup. The walls are cold.
Agreed.
And therefore, you have to just keep that in mind. It's also part of why it has less, the power of that cup is much diminished compared to the power of the original kettle. And therefore, now when you pour in, not only pour into cup number one, and then you pour it into cup number two, so you have each time the walls of cup number one cooled, it does something to
I'm saying this, I make tea, the bigger cup, I could make a full egg.
that's logic says that to me. You could talk to the rabbis about that. Right. That's why Gary.
212 degrees is boiling. 212 degrees is boiling. A place where you could have to take your hand out is 140 degrees. Where you can't keep your hand in it, it's too hot. There's 70 degrees between those two numbers. So if I drop it in cup number one, what does it go down to? 180?
I don't know.
160 of the third cup? I drop an egg in there, I assure you that egg's not coming out raw. Not coming out raw. It's gonna be a poached egg. I'm gonna do it. Not on
Yes,
Shabbat. No, you do it 1 second. 1 second.
Right,
1 second.
exactly, right.
Very hot.
Right. But you gain on it.
It's raw, ready to go. Urn boiling 212 degrees. Put it in a cup, drop the egg in. The whole thing's 3 seconds.
But each time you had
That
to.
water's gotta be 200 degrees.
You know, by the way, I think, there are opinions. What's very good. The rationale is that the cup, each utensil, the walls of the utensil are cold. And when the water hits it, it cools it off a certain level. And it's also not the original item that was heated up. So therefore, the ability to cook is much different than something which was originally on a fire and something which is just.
What if the two exit trees were near a fire and they were warm.
Oh, so maybe that might be a problem, that you might not say that the walls cool it off. That's a great point. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause the idea that the walls of the utensils, the kli rishon, the sheni, the shlishi, that's what's doing it. The fact that it's not the original place where the was on the fire. Right, right, right. That would be a problem. Right, so that would be a problem if it's warm. The cup is warm.
Bang, bang, egg.
Bang bang tea. I'm telling you, bang bang tea.
So a lot of people won't drink tea even.
Right. So now even Mark, because of Mark's the way Mark is presenting, he's making his case. So people would not make the tea in the third cup. In the
You see everyone has that extra cup, third cup.
But there are those that are concerned with. Okay, you need to avoid it. Okay. But the coffee is much better. The coffee was already cooked. The beans were already cooked. So now it's already made. It's already what?
Yeah.
Legal. It's a ready-made coffee. Right.
That's the issue.
That people want everything, so just be careful. We're talking about instant coffee, right? We're talking about instant coffee. Instant coffee means it's already been cooked.
The thing is in the jars.
Right, it's not fresh beans. No, you're not making
Raw.
beans. You're not making raw beans. The leaves are raw. You actually
That's a very big difference. You take something from a raw state.
no, but instant coffee was cooked already, Gary. Yes.
They grab. You know what raw coffee is? You can't drink raw coffee. Beans are white. No, it's cooked. They roast the beans, then they grind. So instant is still roasted and ground.
It has a history. It has a history.
Right.
Okay, very good.
So, right, the people who do tea thing.
It's because I think they're worried about Mark's problem. They won't do the egg thing.
Shows that kind of find that the tea thing is a little suspect, yeah.
Yeah.
People really should be doing what.
Like when I was with my habitat 2 days ago, I called him because I said, listen, I left there saying, "Good Jimmy, not cooking. I could do this." Yeah. And then even in the meeting, Rabbi was like, he was baffled with my question. He's like, I don't know, I can't tell you. So then, but he said also that some people won't do the tea in the third cup. So then when I called him, he said, tell Rabbi Levy it's exactly the same thing. You could do the egg the same way you could do the tea, but you shouldn't do anything that cooks easy.
Yeah.
In a cliche.
In a cliche.
Right.
The cliche.
Everything goes.
Everything goes.
That's the lenient thing.
Okay, so now
Right.
I could really cook an egg in my third cup.
You gotta be careful because now when we deal with different types of people.
Yeah, watch you cooking, they watch you.
What do you do? No. I would say based, if we're gonna do that leniency for the egg, then I would say, like the Gemara says, when you're dealing with people, the different, you're dealing with a person like yourself and Gary and Adam, you're learning the laws and you know the laws, you're top of the laws. But then you deal with people, you might come to, you have, like I would say, the young grandchildren. They're not there yet. They don't know they haven't learned all the details. And then they see, oh, I have a raw egg morning and boom, and that grandpa made me an egg this one. Maybe in the Shabbat. So I'm very concerned for that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm very concerned how people are going to look at it, because not everyone is learning the laws of Shabbat in its details to understand klisheni, klishlishi. Everybody understands. They know they understand what's going on. So that's what I would just beware of that of these allowances. All right, 100%. Okay. So what do a lot of Hasidim do? Or a lot of people, non-Hasidim, a lot of people do. They don't want to do the Kli Shlishi for tea. So what do? Like Adam said, before Shabbat, they prepare something called tea scents. This is what they do. They cook the tea bags. They take a number of tea bags, 3, 4 tea. Probably Gary, you've seen it or not. they take the tea bags, and before Shabbat, they pour the water from the boiling hot tea kettle Friday before Shabbat onto these tea bags. Now they have already cooked the tea leaves.
Like the instant coffee.
Right, now it's like the instant coffee. It's like having, and then on Shabbat, they keep it warm. They keep it warm over there. And it's liquid that, and then, but it's like liquid that has been, even though it's liquid, and we say liquid is subject to a double cooking, but they keep it warm. This is what the Ashkenazim do. And
Don't tell me they add hot water.
no, so on
Because
Shabbat,
you just
right,
said
but-
it can't get out.
right, but what they do on Shabbat is on Shabbat they take a cup of water from the tea kettle, hot cup of water, and they add that tea sense to the kli sheni. Because why? Because the tea sense has already been cooked. And the hot, you're not adding, right, again, on Shabbat itself, you're adding this sense to the hot water. And the hot water now is a kli sheni, and you're not cooking tea bags. It's kli sheni on a liquid that was already cooked, and that's kosher. And also, I think we're particular that it should still be warm when we put it in, not that it should be cold when we put it in. So that seems to be the way many people want to avoid. They want to avoid your case. They don't want to do the kli sheni. They don't want to take a raw tea bag on Shabbat and just do boom boom and then boom. There used to be a box of boom boom Mancini, but it's not boom. He killed someone in the ring, but he killed a Chinese guy in the ring, by the way. But that's when we think of boom boom. You think about the two cups, the kli shlishi. They don't want to do that, so therefore they prepare the tea sets before Shabbat. So if you come to someone's house, an Ashkenazi guy's house, in the yeshiva world, most probably that's what they'll have, the tea sets ready for Shabbat.
But that's record really.
So technically, you shouldn't. If it's not boiling, you shouldn't. It should be fine. But the only question is are we concerned for the look? You know, when you take a tea kettle off.
You know, I just put it into a cup.
I mean, technically, if it wasn't boiling, you should be good. You have to just make sure it wasn't boiling. You know, you might have a strong boiling point. You know what I mean? So we have to see more exactly what that. I think there's a whole discussion. What is that temperature that you have to be? What's considered boiling?
Right, I'm saying that, so there's something we learned earlier that if you put your finger in it and you can keep your finger in it,
Then that's not boiling.
that's not, surely not a problem. If you pull your finger out from too hot, that's hot. Now, it's still not boiling.
But we might
About
consider,
150
but we
degrees,
still
you're
consider,
pulling your finger.
but we still consider that cooking, right?
That's cooking.
Right. That's what we consider.
So
So therefore,
150 to 212 is.
so let's say Gary could put his finger in. You have a nice clean finger. You wash your hand. Yeah, you have a nice clean finger. You put it into the pot. You know, and you see it. You don't record. You can leave it there. So technically, it should be good. That should be good, Gary. Have a great day. Beautiful Shabbat, everybody. Yes.